Hi again. Tonight we're going to be talking about some blemish removing techniques, and we talked about this a number of times before. And often we would either use the feature removal tools, which are under the image menu, and a fill and feature removal. There's a number of tools there. So all you would really have to do in that case is select a blemish and then go to image and fill and let's see, Poisson feature replacement would do a good job. And you can just select something that has a similar texture, do that, and deselect it, and that blemish has disappeared. And that's a very simple way to go about it. Another option would be to use, say, an airbrush tool, and then select let's see, the clone mode, and hold Alt key, drag, and select your source. That'll give you a little crosshair where your source is, then drag over to the destination area where we want to paint, and then just start painting. And that's very useful. That can also work successfully. The only problem with that is, as you see, that source we used, maybe the tone is very dramatically different, and we get a very dark blob there. And you really have to work a little extra hard to find an area where the tone is very similar. This can be very successful, but it's a little bit more work. So what we really want to do is isolate the details here, the texture here, away from the tone and the hues and all that, and work on it separately. So how do we do that? Well, it's really just a matter of separating the high frequencies and the low frequencies. And if you go to Convolve, there's a nice little high pass filter here that will do just that. It'll give us the high frequencies. As you can see, we've isolated these details, and everything else is just gray. That's great, but it doesn't separate them. It just gives us that one high frequency image. What we want is the high frequencies and the low frequencies. That way we can combine them back again later, or even work on them together like that by using layers. So how do we do that? Well, it's pretty simple, and we'll just dive right in. I'll go back to the original image here. I will, let's see, I've already stored a copy of that, but I will go ahead and make a blurry version of this by using a Gaussian blur, just something roughly blurry like that. Hit OK. I'll go to the swap image, and I will go back to the original, so I have one of each. And I will now go to Filter, Combine, and Signed Subtract. This gives us the difference between the blurry version and the sharp version, which is our high pass filter. That gives us basically the gradient of change of all these little details and stuff. But what you'll notice about this, that's really important here, is we're no longer dealing with hues. This is primarily grayscale. And if we go back to that other image, we have primarily the hues and the tones, but we don't have any detail. So basically, we're talking this is the low frequency and this is the high frequency. Now, like I said, what's important here is we have these grayscales. So instead of having to worry about using that clone tool, we can really just use a gray. I'm going to do a color picker here. I'm going to pick a neutral gray. Make sure I'm an airbrush tool. And all I have to do now is really just airbrush out that detail. And it couldn't be any simpler than that. Now, how do we reintegrate these two images? Well, that's also simple. I'll add a layer, and I will drop that original on top of there. And instead of using the default multiply mode, I will go to around gray. And I'm going to make sure I've used, instead of this original image, I'm going to make sure I've swapped back to that blurry version. So if I turn off this, you'll see we have the blurry version. And if I turn that back on, we see we get back to the original image. So if I turn off the blurry version, we get back to the the grayscale image. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to go ahead and make some of my changes here. I'll select the gray, something like that, and I will just maybe I don't need such a big brush, but I'll just go ahead and paint that out, and you'll see we're removing those blemishes. Now we can work on this just um, with them both combined and see how that looks. So that's another thing we can do. Just make sure you have the right layer selected. Come here, start painting out, and it's really just a matter of doing that. It's just a matter of clicking on the part we want to paint and painting. So let's see. Let me scroll down. There's a few more images, a few more areas we can make changes here. And I did get a gray that's slightly too dark there. I'm going to pick a slightly more appropriate gray, and we'll just paint that out, paint that out, paint that out. And as you can see, this is having the effect of letting us just very simply, without any to do, go ahead and remove these blemishes, these little freckles and things. And we are doing this as an example, but bear in mind, people have distinctive features. Everybody has pores on their skin, and this technique should be used with discretion. It's there for your convenience, but please bear in mind people are real, and it's good to be real. So I hope this has been very helpful. There are some things to take into account. Some of these features are a little bit larger, cover more area, and these may affect the tone and the hue. So we might want to look at both of these areas together in this case. So I can remove those details, but that gets a little bit darker. So in that case, you might have to go ahead and also work on other that other layer, the more blurry one. So I'll select that. I will go here, select that, and it's just a matter of getting the right hue or whatever it is you want in there. Or we could just use some other technique in that case. But I'm going to go ahead and do one other thing. Say we have some other detail we don't like. Say this hair is on our way. Well, that is now also easy to remove. We'll just, let's see, make sure we have selected the correct gray, and we will just go ahead, and painting it out is that simple. All right, so I hope this has been informative. Um, and that's really about all I have to say for that tonight. Thanks for watching. I'll go ahead and merge these two layers. And of course, if there is something that is not working here, we can go ahead and use some other technique. We could use uh, that clone tool, or we could use the some other technique. Let me go ahead and give this a shot. Let's try going to clone, hit Alt, drag down a little bit here, and I will just paint using a similar area of tone, and that will allow us to accomplish what we were trying to do there. All right, so a couple of other things we could do with that. Well, as I said before, human beings are full of texture and variety. So I might go ahead and go back to that original and allow some of that to shine through. We might just use a reduced version of that, maybe a 50-50. So some of that still is there. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later.